I stood in a courtroom with my hands folded in my lap and the taste of penny metal in my mouth. They asked me if I feared his release. I stared at the red exit sign across the room instead of the man at the defendant's table, and I said very clearly, yes. The judge's pen tapped the bench twice. Someone coughed. Paper rustled like dry leaves. 24 hours earlier, the House still knew how to hold its breath. Detroit wakes up in layers, porch lights blinking out, kettle steam, tires whispering over damp asphalt. In this house, we wake up when Marcus does. That's the rule, written nowhere and enforced everywhere. He doesn't say good morning. He checks his watch, adjusts a tie that costs what my pension pays in a week, and evaluates the kitchen like an inspector. Coffee, he says. Eggs, 2 slices. Don't burn the edges. I crack eggs into a pan I've owned since the bus garage holiday party in 1998. People think bus drivers don't notice details, but we notice everything. The late snow, the step too high for an old knee, the way a whole city exhales during the first Tigers game of spring. I notice my hands today, the tiny tremor as I bring him his plate. He scrolls through messages while he eats, thumb flicking away any chance at a smile. The rent's due by the 5th, he tells me when the yolk runs a little thin. I'll move the money. He means my money. He means the house I paid for 1 paycheck at a time, the savings I said yes to when I said no to 100 little extras. He means that last year he helped me set up online banking and then never gave the password back because 2-factor is confusing, Ma. He means control dressed as care. He slides his chair back with a scrape that makes my molars meet. He leaves and the air expands like someone cracked a window. I am Gloria Benton, 62 as of May, retired Detroit City bus driver turned part-time bookkeeper at a body shop on McNichols until the owner sold to a chain. My hands remember tokens and transfer slips. My shoulders remember schedules. My son remembers that I never learned how to let go. My neighbor knows something's wrong. He doesn't say it directly because men like him don't throw truth like a rock. They build a shelf and set it down careful. "Morning, Miss B," Mr. Nguyen says, leaning on the porch rail around 9. His accent carries the soft edges of someone who has learned at least 2 kinds of weather. "Light flickered on your porch camera again. Might want to check the batteries. I don't own a porch camera." He does. He's reminding me without humiliating me. That's a gift you learn to recognize when you've spent your life around men who prefer the other kind. I tell him thank you. I think about batteries. I think about how he always pretends the chime we both hear belongs to my house and not his. At 10:13, a number I don't know calls. I almost let it go to voicemail because I have learned that unknown numbers often mean new ways to lose things. I answer anyway. "Miss Benton," a woman's voice calm with a pencil tucked in somewhere. "This is Dina with Lakeside Freight. Is Marcus available?" "He's at work," I tell her. The truth, for once, feels like an apology. We're seeing odd reversals on a vendor account tied to Benton Household Services, LLC. The tax ID matches your Social Security. I hate to bother you, but we need a quick confirmation on authorizations. I sit down because my knees decide to be old now. I don't own an LLC. I own a humming porch light and a ring that's lived more in a jewelry dish than on my finger since the divorce. A number linked to my name is moving through spaces I wouldn't be invited to enter. "I don't understand," I say. "No problem," Dina says, and she says it like she knows some problems are actually problems you can't get away from. I'll email what we have. The email arrives before the call ends. The subject line sits like a little glowing coal. Vendor reversals/authorization. Inside, a PDF lists numbers in neat rows. Invoice reversal number 4172, fuel vendor, memo, family services. I don't open the PDF. I just watch the coal pulse and glow. At noon, the front door opens on high heels. Peyton arrives first because she always does, laughing at something on her phone before she crosses the threshold. She's late 20s, haircut sharp enough to file paper with it, and eyes that want to be kind but were trained to be practical. "Gloria," she sings from the foyer, "I brought cannoli." Big meeting for Marcus later, so we'll be in and out. She calls me Gloria if he's not home, Ms. Benton if he is. She sets the pastry box down like a peace treaty, and a line flashes on her phone before the screen goes dark. Event. Vendors Marcus. 3 p.m. Coffee? I ask, because I don't know what else to offer a woman beautiful enough to make my house feel like a secondhand shop. Light, she says. No sugar. I pour. She watches my hands do the small work of love. If anyone from compliance calls, she adds casually, the Benton Household LLC is yours. They're doing a background check for a partnership thing. Marcus said you're the listed owner. It's just a formality. The coal in my inbox turns white hot at the center. I feel the old and familiar urge to be agreeable, to keep things from boiling over, to keep men placated because there are certain costs women start calculating before they know arithmetic. Oh, I say softly. Okay. At 1, Peyton's co-workers arrive. 2 women, 1 man, all perfume and expensive sneakers, laughter pitched to land just left of sincerity. They take pictures by my mother's china like it's a museum. I stack plates and swallow apologies like spoonfuls of something bitter. When Peyton says, "Gloria keeps this place running," they all murmur admiration. It lands on me the way glitter lands on a carpet. Pretty if you don't have to vacuum. No one asks why my hands shake. On the porch, the wind catches the little metal chime Mr. Nguyen hung last winter to cheer me, and it flickers. Mr. Nguyen's steps creak on his stoop. He coughs once, the sound older than the cough itself. After the toasts and the clinking and the talk about deliverables, I count the forks and load the dishwasher. Peyton lingers, holding her cup like it's information. "Are you okay?" she asks in a low voice. She's asked before. She will ask again. There are 3 answers to a question like that. The truth in a smaller cup, or a lie that comforts everyone. I open my mouth to try the second kind, but the upstairs door opens, and a draft carries Marcus's cologne into the dining room like a script direction. "Ladies," he says from the hall, smile turned up to 11. "Ready when you are?" The house forgets how to breathe. He waits for me in what used to be the sewing room, where I once hemmed pants and made curtains and stitched a lion onto a little boy's backpack because he loved the Wizard of Oz with a devotion he would later give to money. The desk now shines like a magazine cover. The chair looks like it could drive itself. On the blotter, a document lies face down like a dare. "Bank at 10 tomorrow," he says, flipping the paper around. "Sign where I highlight." No questions. He pushes it toward me. I don't know enough legal words to defend myself in fancy language, but I know one phrase in bold uppercase, and it knocks the breath sideways out of me. Durable power of attorney. "No," I say. He leans back slightly, not because the word is loud, I didn't say it loud, but because the air around it changes when a woman says it who hasn't in a while. "Excuse me? I won't sign that." He smiles. It's the smile he uses with waiters when they bring him the wrong thing. "You know what this is? It's a way to make my signature your puppet." His face barely moves. "You live in my house, eat my food. It's my house," I start, but the sentence doesn't have a place to go right now. It will later. "I got a call from your job," I say instead. That lands. His eyes flick to the printer, to the drawer, back to me. He takes 2 steps forward and the smell of expensive aftershave and something chemical fills the room. "You never," he says softly, almost gently, "say my name anywhere again without checking with me first. Do you understand?" He grips my arm just above the elbow, not hard, just enough to make a map tomorrow. He doesn't notice the small squawk of electronics outside when the porch light sensor trips. He never notices the small things that see him. He releases me and smiles again. A different shape of smile this time, the one he wore in grade school in photographs when they reminded him to show teeth. He leaves for his meeting with a half salute, like this is all a game he's winning by a lot. Dusk comes early in Michigan if you invite it. Around 7, Mr. Nguyen knocks once and then twice. Our code. And I open the back door. He's holding a Tupperware and his phone, and there is a look on his face that makes me understand once again the importance of a certain kind of man on a block. The kind who remembers how to build shelves and fix radios and notice things without needing to talk about them. "Watch," he says quietly, and sets his phone on my table. His porch camera view fills the screen, my stoop, my steps, the edge of my doormat with the worn medallion in the middle. Marcus appears on the screen, leaning against the railing, talking into his phone. He's not careful because he never thinks anyone is listening unless he paid them to. "If she doesn't sign," he says, low but clear, "I'll have her evaluated. She's slipping anyway. I've got friends who'll write it up." He pauses, listening. Vendor 4172 goes through the LLC same as the last quarter. It's clean if she plays nice. I know my own name. I know my own age. I know my own address. It is a strange thing to hear your life summarized as an obstacle. I sit very still. Mr. Nguyen pauses the video with a careful thumb. "You be ready tomorrow," he says. "If you want help, I know a number. Wayne County, Janelle Ortiz, a DA. Came to the block watch last year for a talk. Elder stuff." He writes the number on a sticky note in neat block letters. He prints the way you build a shelf, measured, patient, useful. He slides the yellow square across the table. "Call tonight. Leave a message." She gets back. I place the note next to the dish that holds 3 pennies, a safety pin, and my old wedding ring. 2 kinds of promise sit together without argument. In the morning, I sit in the county building holding a styrofoam cup of coffee that tastes like gum and pretend to read a pamphlet that talks about resources like they are fruits on a tree you can just reach up and pick. A door opens, and a woman whose shoes make friendly noises walks out. "Miss Benton," she says. "I'm Assistant District Attorney Ortiz. Come on back." Her office has a plant, a photo of what might be nieces at a soccer game, and a shelf with binders labeled in bad handwriting and better handwriting. She doesn't sit until I do. "Tell me what you know," she says. "Not what you fear." What you know, so I tell her. The vendor name, Benton Household Services, LLC, which I've never heard of. The invoice reversals, the memo that says Family Services, the call from Dina at Lakeside Freight, the PDF that's now opened in my head even if I still haven't clicked it, the document on the desk last night in my old sewing room, the bold uppercase words. I tell her about the porch camera across the way and the sentences my son said into his phone because he thought sound was loyalty. When I finish, she nods once like a gavel. "Okay," she says, "we can act on this. We'll start with 2 tracks, safety and paper. Safety means we don't let him control your movement or force you into a bank. Paper means we gather what Dana has and what Mr. Nguyen recorded and what you received in your email. Will you consent to recorded calls and a controlled pickup at your residence?" It's a lot of words to agree to at 8:45 in the morning. All I have to spend is yes. I spend it. She picks up a phone and dials a number and introduces herself to Dina like she has done this 1,000 times and will do it 1,000 more. And I am a person in a long line of people who were told love is a leash. Dina emails again, this time with more attachments. Ortiz prints things slowly so I can watch the pages become heavy. "We'll meet you at your house at 9:30, Ortiz says. "We'll let him ring the bell. We'll let him say his piece. Then we'll say ours. Okay?" I nod. She writes down a safety plan that includes my neighbor's name, like she's learned something about how neighborhoods work. At 9:37, Marcus parks crooked, like he owns the angle of concrete. At 9:41, he unlocks the front door with that sigh, like the weather messed up his plans. At 9:44, blue and red spill across my living room rug. "What is this?" he asks, switching his smile to the one he reserves for mix-ups at car rental counters and wrong charge bills at restaurants. Mom, what did you do?" "I told the truth," I say, and I don't whisper. He meets my eyes for a split second, and in it, I see a toddler with applesauce in his hair, swaying in a high chair, singing Ba 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 to a Motown song like he invented it. I see a third grader who cried when he got a B because he forgot to show his work. I see a teenager who discovered he could turn anything into a transaction and never forgave me for all the years I didn't. "This isn't over," he says as they guide him out. He says it quiet for me. He is not wrong. Things like this are never over. They become something else you have to live with. The house sighs when the door closes. I swear I can feel wood relax. 2 days later, a letter arrives with my name printed like a judge wrote it. The blue ink is neat. He learned that from me. He wrote out spelling lists twice a week at the kitchen table, and I used to draw stars at the top when he was little enough to believe stars belonged to him. "Dear Mom," it begins. "I hope you're enjoying your little show. I kept copies, the ones from the shop. Time cards you adjusted when your boss needed numbers to hit. Remember cash envelopes at Christmas? Your accountant never saw them. Taxman won't like that story at 62. Sign the statement. Say you misunderstood. We'll fix this, or I take your halo off in public. Love, M." I read it twice and then again because my brain refuses to process both the handwriting I used to praise and the shape of the threat. People imagine blackmail is always about huge crimes in movies. Sometimes it's about an exhausted woman subtracting 15 minutes from a time card because her supervisor shouted about margins and Christmas envelopes with 20s in them that she believed were gifts. Small wrongs grow teeth when someone needs them to. I take the letter to Ortiz. She reads without flinching. "He's trying to control the narrative," she says. "There's a way to make it stop working." "I know," I say. "I do. You say it out loud before he can. It's a kind of magic the honest tell you isn't magic because they don't want you to believe in it. We call the press. The courthouse steps fill up with cameras and microphones that always look hungry to me. I put on my church dress. Mr. Nguyen stands a little to my left in the crowd like a lighthouse disguised as a man. My voice shakes at first. I tell them my name. I tell them my age. I tell them I drove a bus for 30 years and saw winters that broke things and summers that glued them back together. I tell them about the time cards and the envelopes and the supervisor whose voice I still hear if I pass that old block on McNichols. I tell them how guilt lives in the same drawer as pragmatism and sometimes puts on pragmatism's coat. If there's a penalty for my part, I say, I'll take it. But I will not take his name on my breath like a stone anymore. Someone asks if I'm trying to get sympathy. Someone else asks what I'd say to other mothers. I tell them what I wish someone had told me out loud earlier, that secrets are knives that can only cut in the dark. Outside, in daylight, a knife is a tool, and tools can be put down. That night, the porch light hums like it loves its job. That night, my house sleeps. The next day, we go to court. It's a small room designed to make big decisions look routine. Women with tote bags, men with briefcases, 1,000 pieces of paper. The judge is an older man, white hair, tie that has probably been in fashion and out of fashion 3 times. He looks at me over the rim of his glasses, and then at the file in front of him, and then at Marcus. Defense tries on a few strategies. "Miss Benton's memory is inconsistent," the young man says without looking at me. "She's made admissions of wrongdoing. She may be emotionally compromised. Our camera isn't," Ortiz says, tapping the transcript of Mr. Nguyen's porch video. "Our ledger isn't. The bank records aren't. If we're litigating integrity, let's include exhibits A through G. Dina is there too, small and precise in the second row. Eyes a question mark that leans forward. She nods at me once. Peyton sits on the other side of the aisle behind the defense and worries a tissue into strings. The judge flips through, stops at vendor 4172, reads a line, and then looks at Marcus. "Mr. Benton," he says, "I find probable cause to believe you exploited your mother financially and committed fraud. Given the ongoing risk, bail is denied. Marcus's face rearranges. It is strange to watch a person choose a mask and then be surprised by their own reflection. He stands, and the tightness in his jaw loosens into something I recognize from when he was 8 and didn't get picked for the team. "You're nothing without me," he says. Not loud enough to be a spectacle, but loud enough for me to hear, and the deputy to warn him. "You think these people care? You think any of them will be there when the camera goes?" He's wrong about some of that. He's right about some, too. People care in shifts. That's okay. Love is a shift job more than it's a lifetime appointment. They lead him away. The door closes behind him with a soft click, like something being filed. I sit on the bench and look at my hands. Their menopause spot map has grown a little continent on the back of the left one. I used to trace the future in those shapes, like kids look at clouds. I see a kettle in one and a porch light in another. I see our old dog, Sugar, in a third. Ortiz squeezes my shoulder once. "We'll get you home," she says, "and we'll get the rest of this where it needs to go." Outside the courtroom, Peyton approaches me with her chin trembling. "I'm filing," she says without preamble, "for separation." Maybe more. He took money from me too. I found the withdrawals when he left his laptop open, which he never does. She laughs once, a sound like a glass going dry. "I'm sorry," she adds. "I should have said something sooner." I knew something wasn't right. I didn't want to give up the life we were building. The thing is, it wasn't any life I recognize. I surprise us both. I hug her. She cries into my shoulder. She smells like vanilla and a powder I can't afford. Dina comes over, shakes my hand like we're colleagues. "We tightened our controls," she says. "That's the line I say at work. What I mean is, I'm sorry. We should have seen this sooner." "I should have," I reply, because responsibility is heavy, but it rests easier if it sits evenly. We can divide it up like leftovers. That afternoon, a letter arrives on Lakeside letterhead. I set it on the table and study the window before I open it because sometimes you need to brace. It's from Kevin Ramirez, the Director of Finance for Lakeside Logistics Group. He says words about restitution, about a check that will arrive to compensate for damage I incurred because my name was used. He says words about a part-time consulting role. "We could use someone with your eye on our internal audits for a few months," he writes. "We trust people like you. We need them. People like me." I sit very still for a moment and try the phrase on like a sweater at Hudson's in 1989, back when we could pretend certain stores would last forever. I say yes. I say it over the phone and then later in an email and then to myself the next morning when I tie my shoes. The house gets quieter. Quiet can be scary if you've grown used to fear making noise by itself. The first night back alone, I keep the porch light on. Mr. Nguyen replaces the bulb the next day because he says the hum sounded wrong. He refuses the 20. I try to sneak into his coat pocket and takes a slice of lemon pound cake instead. He tells me about his wife who died 8 years ago. He tells me about the first snow in Saigon when a freezer truck leaked. He tells me how to keep a house warm without inviting your bills to climb the stairs. I go through drawers the way I should have years ago. I find old report cards that say, cooperative, and talks too much, and I realize both can be true at once. I find a photograph of Marcus and me at Belle Isle, his legs skinny in shorts, his face split open into laughter at a goose that wanted his pretzel. I place the frame back on the shelf. I look at it and try to put it in the same room as the man who told someone on a porch I should be evaluated. He calls that evening from the jail. The number is blocked, but I answer anyway because boundaries take practice, and today I am practicing with the training wheels still attached. "Mom," he says. He sounds defeated, which is a shape I don't recognize on him. He has always sounded sure. "I saw the news." "What did you think?" I ask. I am calm, and some other Gloria notices and nods approval. "You destroyed everything," he says, "but there is no heat in it. You destroyed my last chance to get out of here." "No," I say. "You did that when you turned my name into your wallet." Silence stretches like hot taffy. "Are you ever going to forgive me?" he asks. "Someday," I say, And the word means what it means in English. No immediate plan, no forever exile. Maybe someday. After the work, after the truth, after the paying back, after the part where you stop confusing power for love. Maybe he sniffs. Somewhere behind him, a voice calls a number, and he says he has to go. I say okay and hang up and turn the phone off and set it face down on the counter the way a pastor covers a communion tray. The mail arrives the next day. There's a letter from the Department of Revenue, routine and boring. There's a postcard from a friend who moved to Arizona and writes me once a month about sunsets. There's a second envelope addressed in that neat blue hand. He found a new angle. This time, there are photographs, copies, not originals, of documents from the body shop, internal memos with my handwriting in the margins, dates that look like they got a haircut, time cards that walked back 15 minutes when the numbers needed to. The letter says, if you don't come see me before Friday, and if you don't bring a signed letter asking to drop all charges because you got confused, these go to the paper. Also the recordings. Did you think I didn't know about cameras? Did you think I was stupid? I have my own. Recordings of what? I read the page again, then a third time. I sit down and the chair complains. He has recordings of me accepting cash gifts from customers at the shop and at the holiday party. He accuses me of tax evasion because I never reported gift money on my returns. I imagine a headline they would give a woman like me. Grandma cheats tax man. The thought makes bile creep and sit in the back of my throat like a decision. I call Ortiz. I tell her everything I can remember, about the supervisor with the short fuse, about the envelopes, about the times a guy would slip me $20 because I stayed late and printed an estimate. His insurance company said couldn't be ready until Tuesday. I tell her how the holidays feel safer with an extra 100 in your purse when tires are bald, and the light bill will come, no matter how much you sing in the kitchen. Did you know it was illegal? She asks. I knew it wasn't the good kind of right, I say. I didn't think they'd send me to prison for it. I thought it was between me and God and a cashier at Mayer. She scratches notes in a tight, precise hand. Ignorance isn't a legal defense, she says gently, but context matters, intent matters, scale matters, and, this is important, your willingness to disclose matters. He's counting on your fear. A confession isn't a wrecking ball, it's a level, will I be charged? I can't promise you won't, she says. I can promise that being on this side of the conversation helps. I can promise prosecutors like cooperation more than they like the alternative, and I can promise we'll hold his blackmail where it belongs. We hold another press conference. The cameras look less hungry this time and more curious, like people who have smelled something in the kitchen and can't quite identify it. I tell the truth again, this time with specifics. I name the body shop. I name the years. I name the supervisor, and I do not call him a monster, because people who hide their own bad behavior love it when you get dramatic. I say I'm ready to pay what is owed. I say, again, out loud, where he can't use it against me anymore, that my son is counting on my fear to make me spend the rest of my life as his shield. I say, I won't. The phone rings 2 hours later. It's someone from the Department of Revenue who says words like voluntary disclosure and amended returns and penalties, and we appreciate your honesty. We set up a meeting. Mr. Nguyen insists on driving me, which I let him because he needs to be useful, like I need to be forgiven. At the meeting, a woman named Trina with glasses on a chain does math with a pencil and a calculator and a kind of mercy I didn't know you could learn in a cubicle. It is a lot of numbers, and none of them are zero. I sign papers and promise things and cry in the elevator after, quietly, and then stop before the doors open because people fear an old woman's crying more than they fear a young man's anger. The work at Lakeside begins that week. I take a bus downtown the first day for old time's sake, Route 7 to Jefferson, then a transfer, and I ache in the right places. The office is all glass and steel, the kind of place that believes itself into being every morning. Kevin Ramirez shakes my hand with both hands and tells me again they're sorry for what they missed and grateful for what I saw. He shows me a desk in a semi-quiet corner and a stack of vendor names that need my eye. I love lists. I always have. I love the way a list makes a storm into tasks. I love the way you can prove you were here later by pointing to a line. I drink company coffee and draw boxes around numbers that don't look like they belong where they are. I write questions in the margins, like someone teaching myself a subject called What Went Wrong. In the afternoons, I go home and make dinner for one and take a plate next door to Mr. Nian, because gratitude likes to ride on casseroles in my neighborhood. We sit on his stoop sometimes and talk about impossible things, war and taxes and whether you can really understand another person's hunger. Peyton stops by with a cardboard box and returns the porcelain frame she borrowed for a party once. She tells me her lawyer is a woman who wears sneakers to court and a ponytail that makes her look like she's thinking about 5 things at once. She tells me she didn't know about the money. I believe her. Women are very good at knowing and not knowing at the same time. That's how you survive a decade or a marriage or a company happy hour. Days stack up like blocks you could build with if you have hands and patience. I have both. The house learns to breathe in a new rhythm. Then the hearing, the one that began this story. The judge asked me if I feared his release. I said yes. He wrote words I didn't need to translate. Bail denied. I watched my son's shoulders jump as if a wire got pulled tight inside him and then let go. We go home afterward. Mr. Nguyen brings in my mail and pretends it is heavy enough I should sit before I open it. There's a note from Ortiz, handwritten on a note card with a picture of Belle Isle in the corner, reminding me to eat and to call if I hear from him. There's a bill for the boiler that might be more than the boiler is worth. There's a sympathy card from a church lady who never liked me telling me she's praying, and I decide to count that as assistance anyway. At 7, the phone rings. Unknown number. I answer because boundaries now are not so fragile they break if you touch them. Mom, he says, a little breathless. I talk to a guy who says if you... No, I say. You don't even know what I was going to ask. You were going to ask me to do something that would hurt me and dress it up as love, I say. I'm setting it on fire before it gets in the house. He is quiet long enough that I wonder if the call dropped. I didn't think you'd be like this, he says finally. I didn't think you would either, I answer. I hate you, he says, and he says it like a boy. I hang up gently and place the phone face down. The restitution check comes a week later. I stare at it until the numbers become unmoored from their meaning and float like ducks on a pond. I deposit it. I fix the back door. I replace the hinges he kicked in when I wouldn't answer fast enough last year to make a memory go where it belongs. I hire a young man from the church to help me patch a wall, and he refuses the extra 20. I try to slip him because he says his grandma would haunt him. I go to Lakeside and audit another list. Vendor 4,178, 4,180, 4,181. I circle 1. Kevin asks me if I'd be willing to teach a lunch and learn about controls to managers. I say yes and feel something in my chest stand up straighter. The neighborhood becomes a choir again, not a jury. Clarice from 3 doors down drops off soup, the kind that tastes like 20 minutes of someone else's time. Mr. Nguyen installs a second porch light because he says redundancy is kindness. A teenager I don't know shovels my walk after the first snow, and I give him $5 and he says $5 won't buy anything anymore, and we both laugh. I sleep. It is not perfect. Any house that has learned fear retains some of it under the baseboards. But I sleep. Months pass. Cases move like winter rivers, slow and cold and unstoppable. Ortiz invites me to speak to a small group in the community room of the library about elder financial abuse. I stand at a podium that smells like pine cleaner and say sentences that feel like bricks laid in a wall. If they tell you it's for your own good, while they take your password, that's not care. And if any document says durable power of attorney and surprises you, do not sign it. And being ashamed is a tax you pay to the wrong government. After, a woman with a cane and a beautiful scarf cries in my arms and tells me her grandson has her debit card. A man in a tiger's cap nods so hard his hat comes off and says, "It's the porch lights that save us." I know what he means. The trial date sits on a calendar like a hand you're not sure you want to shake. I go because I don't hide from things now. I testify again. Dana testifies with numbers. Peyton testifies with eyes that have learned to see. Mr. Nguyen sits in the third row and pretends to read a pamphlet about recycling. The defense tries again to make me smaller by making me bigger. She confessed to tax issues, Your Honor. And Ortiz responds by making me ordinary, and she voluntarily corrected them. This case isn't about that Marcus watches me while I talk. He doesn't blink as much as he did when he was little. I do not cry. The verdict, when it comes, feels nothing like the fireworks people imagine. It's a piece of paper. It's a court clerk saying words. It's a deputy gesturing. It's a room emptying out while we all look at our phones. I walk out into bright sun and a wind that steals my breath and gives it back. Ortiz shakes my hand and half hugs me because she is careful about boundaries and affection in public buildings. Kevin texts me a thumbs-up emoji, and then 5 minutes later, a long message with actual words, because he has learned something about how to say serious things to serious people. Peyton comes over that night with a casserole dish she's trying to make into a habit and tells me she got a job at a nonprofit that helps women get out of bad leases. We sit on the couch that used to be a battlefield and eat in front of the TV like middle schoolers because we can. We laugh about a man on a cooking show who insists every dish needs truffle oil. We do not talk about Marcus. We do not have to. A month later, Kevin asks if I want to keep consulting. It turns out I do. I like making things balance. I like catching numbers trying to sneak out dressed as other numbers. I like leaving a building every day knowing where something went that morning that wasn't where it belonged the night before. The house breathes differently now. Hope is oxygen, and I had been living on rationed air. I wake to my own alarm. I make my coffee exactly right. I pick up the paper and do the crossword. Some days I go to Belle Isle and sit and watch the geese argue like old men and think about my boy who loved pretzels and lions and winning. Some days I pray for him, some days I don't. God is not fragile and can handle my inconsistency. One night, I pull an old box from the back of the closet. Yearbooks, my bus driver's vest with the reflective strips, the little star wand I used to bring on the bus on the last day of school to wave at kids who thought they were too old to smile back. The wand still lights up. The batteries lasted all this time. I laugh until my stomach hurts, which is a better pain than I've had in years. On Mr. Nguyen's birthday, we have sheet cake on the porch and invite the block. The kids lick frosting off plastic forks and leave the forks in my yard, and I don't even care. Someone brings a portable speaker and plays songs we all know, and nobody turns the volume down. The porch light hums above us like a neighbor singing harmony. I check the mail after everyone leaves. There's a note from Ortiz, on paper again, because she is that kind of person, telling me about a training she's giving on elder abuse and asking if I'd like to open with a story. I say yes. There's a flyer for a sale at the grocery store on maple syrup. There's a postcard from my friend in Arizona that says the desert smells like rain before it rains. There's also an envelope with no return address. I hold it for a long time because sometimes you need to let your skin absorb the temperature of a thing before you open it. Inside, there's a single sheet of paper, 3 sentences. My son's handwriting, neat and careful. It says, "I heard you on the news again. You look strong. I start classes next month. My voice program says I'm eligible. I sit on the porch steps and cry for 5 minutes. Then I stop. Then I start again for 1 more. Then I stop." Grief and hope are neighbors who share a fence and borrow sugar and sometimes argue about where the property line is. I wipe my face on my sleeve and go inside and make tea. I keep the letter in the drawer with the sticky note that holds Ortiz's number and the church kid's name and Kevin's card and the warranty for the porch light bulbs. The drawer closes easier than it used to. In the morning, I stand at the window and watch my street become itself. A woman in scrubs walking fast because her shift went long, a man with 2 coffees on a cardboard holder, a kid with a backpack too large for his frame. The sun catches the little edges of 1,000 ordinary things and turns them important. I used to think safety was the absence of danger. It's not. Safety is the presence of people. People who answer the phone, people who print a number on a sticky note, people who bring cannoli and stay long enough to learn the truth, people who set up microphones so a woman can walk out into the bright and say the things she was told never to say. I flip the switch for the porch light in broad daylight just because I like the hum. Then I turn it off because I am not afraid I'll forget to turn it on at dusk. I take a deep breath and let the house take one with me. I make my coffee and take it on the porch and sit on the step Mr. Nguyen replaced last fall. He waves from his kitchen window with a dish towel. I wave back. The house remembers my name. I say it to myself under my breath. Gloria, I say. It feels like a password no one else knows. The phone rings. This time it's not an unknown number. It's a woman from the library thanking me for the talk last week, asking if I would speak to another group. I say yes. She asks me what my fee is. I don't answer right away because it surprises me to be asked. Then I tell her a number. She says okay. After I hang up, I write the engagement on a calendar in big letters. Then, because I like the look of it, I write my own name underneath. The G looks like the shape of the porch light when you squint. Some evenings, I think about the first time I drove a bus alone, Route 12 down Fort Street in the half-light of a winter morning. I remember the way my fingers ached on the wheel and how my breath made tiny clouds in the cab. A man climbed on with a denim jacket and a lunchbox and said, "You got it," like he was encouraging a friend lifting a sofa. He stepped down at the plant and didn't look back. You got it. The sentence floats up sometimes when I open the porch door. I like to think he meant the bus. I like to think he meant the morning. I like to think he meant my life. If you were to walk by my house tonight, you'd see a single light shining at the porch. You might not notice it with all the others, with the constant flicker of screens behind curtains and the blue wash of televisions telling stories that bleed into each other. But if you look straight at it, you'd see a bulb doing exactly what it was made to do without apology. Sometimes I catch myself apologizing to empty rooms for nothing at all, and then I stop. Marcus taught me a lot about the cost of silence. Ortiz taught me the price of truth is payable in installments you can handle. Mr. Nguyen taught me to keep spare bulbs on hand. I breathe in. I breathe out. I say thank you for heat, for coffee, for neighbors, for the kind of accounting that isn't about money. I count the number of good things on one hand and then have to borrow a second. I smile, and it hurts the side of my face where a line has deepened the last year, and I'm grateful for that line too, because it means I've been here long enough to have one. The city hums, the house hums, the light hums, and me? I hum back.